Hello, it's me. I'm here for some comprehension time with my grade 4s. So grade 4s, today we're going to be reading all about the Arctic Ocean. So we're going to go through this together. I'm going to model how I'm thinking, so how I would think through the questions. This way you can check, if you've already done this, you can check your work. If you're working along with me, then we can figure it out together. At any point, you can pause the video, you can rewind the video if you think you missed something, and remember, I'm here on Dojo if you get stuck. All right, so let's start doing some comprehension. Okay, so whenever we get a worksheet, it's important to start and see what they're asking us to do. So they're saying, read the passage. As you read, pause after each section to think about whether you understood the information. Now, this is a section and this is a section. So there's only two sections. We're going to read through slowly, and then I'm going to pause and let you think about whether you understood it. Maybe there's something you did understand, maybe there's something you didn't understand. That's okay. We'll go through it, we'll see what it means, and then we'll answer the questions together. Okay, so the Arctic Ocean, we start with introduction. Introduction. The Arctic Ocean is the smallest and coldest ocean in the world. It stretches from the North Pole to Asia, Europe, and North America. The Arctic Ocean is mostly covered in sea ice all year. It is home to penguins, walruses, polar bears, and whales. Because the ocean is so cold, few plants and animals can live there. So we're going to pause. Okay, we're going to think about what we learned in the introduction. The introduction is just introducing us to our topic. So we learned, and I'm going to use a highlighter to help us here. This time we learned we're reading about the Arctic Ocean. That is what it's about. Okay, the Arctic Ocean. We learned that it's the smallest and coldest ocean in the world. I'm just highlighting the important parts. Okay, and that's I think an important thing to remember. The Arctic Ocean is the smallest and coldest ocean in the world. Okay, it stretches from the North Pole to Asia, Europe, and North America. So if you think about that, if I had a map of the world, I would have the world. Okay, and the Arctic Ocean, here's the North Pole, here's the South Pole. The Arctic Ocean is up here. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. It's like the cap, it's like the hat of the world, right up here. It's like the hat we're wearing. So it's the hat of the world, and it touches North America and Europe and Asia. So the Arctic Ocean touches this continent and this continent and this continent because it's at the top of the world. It's where I guess it's not really the top. It's near the North Pole, what we would think of as the top of the world. So right here. So this is the Arctic Ocean. I'm going to draw a little Arctic Ocean. And if you were swimming in there, you would be cold because it's the coldest ocean in the world. And if you were to go visit it, it wouldn't be as big as the other oceans because it's the smallest ocean in the world. Okay, and it says here, the Arctic Ocean, we're going to keep reading. So we're here. The Arctic Ocean is mostly covered in sea ice all year. So that tells us that if you were to go visit it, imagine what it might look like. Probably would be white and solid. Instead of, when we think of an ocean, sometimes we think of like big blue ocean. But the Arctic Ocean is mostly covered in sea ice. So if you went to go and visit it, it would just look like it was snow. It is home to penguins, walruses, polar bears, and whales. Because the ocean is so cold, few plants and animals can live there. Oh, I didn't mean to highlight that, but that's okay. So the things that are important to remember, we're reading about the Arctic Ocean. We've learned that it's small. We've learned that it touches all the continents like a hat, like a world hat, right? We've learned that it goes from the North Pole at the top, and then it touches these continents. That's all it means. That's how they're saying it. It's mostly covered in ice. That's important, right? If you went to go visit it and you took your boat, I don't think you'd get to go for much of a boat ride. It's home to penguins. That's important. Different wildlife and whales. But because it's so cold, few plants and animals can live there. Okay, we've talked about what the first part of the passage meant. Let's move on to size and temperature. So the Arctic Ocean covers 5.4 million square miles. It's smaller than all the other oceans. It is also the shallowest ocean. The temperature of the Arctic Ocean stays around 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0 degrees Celsius. Now, Fahrenheit and Celsius the temperature is the same. It would feel the same if you were there. It's just a different way of measuring the temperature. The large amount of sea ice in the ocean stops this temperature from changing too much. However, much of the ice in the Arctic Ocean is melting because of global warming. So if you're looking at this one, what do you think the important parts of this passage might be? So think about it. We're going to go through and we're going to try and explain it together. So the Arctic Ocean, I mean, it says it's small, but it's still 5.4 million square miles. We already learned up there that it was the smallest ocean, so it's not really new information. The temperature is around freezing. So we know Celsius, so I'm gonna say Celsius. The large amount of sea ice in the ocean stops this temperature from changing too much. However, much of the ice in the ocean is melting because of global warming. So what's important for us to know in this passage? It's important to know that the ocean, it's small, but I mean, that's still pretty big. It's also important to know that it's cold, right? And then it's the shallowest ocean. It's interesting. Again, imagine that ocean as the cap of the world. The large amount of sea ice in the ocean stops its temperature from changing too much. And what it's saying is there's ice in it, so it's not warming up too much. Like the Atlantic Ocean, it gets really cold in the winter, but it warms up in the summer, whereas I don't think that the Arctic Ocean gets warm enough in the summer that you'd want to go swimming in it. It stops the temperature from changing too much. Much of the ice in the Arctic Ocean is melting because of global warming. So a lot of the ice is melting because of global warming, and that means that, what do you think might happen in the future? If you think about it, maybe the Arctic Ocean will be more like the Atlantic Ocean, where it'll change with the seasons. It'll get warmer and colder with the seasons. Who knows? Okay, so I tried to explain this. This is a little bit, there's a lot of facts in here, but we tried to make sense of it, right? So I want you to write this down if you had any part that I explained and made it make more sense. So was there any part of the passage that you did not understand right away? How did you figure it out? So I think for me, as the first time I read this through, I was a little bit confused by, because it says it's home to all this wildlife, but then it says that few plants and animals can live there. And then I realized these are special plants, so maybe, or special animals. So maybe you could say, I didn't understand how it said there's few plants and animals, but then penguins, walruses, and polar bears are there. Whatever question you had, and maybe a way that you could make it make sense to you, you can write that down. Okay, and now we're gonna go to the skill practice. So we're gonna practice reading through these questions. We're going to read each question. We're gonna fill in the bubble next to the correct answer. So this article would most likely be found in, so think, if you're looking here, where do you think something like this might be printed? So you've all seen a dictionary. I don't think it would be in a dictionary. It's a little bit long. Now an encyclopedia, this is something you guys use, but you don't use them in a book anymore. It's online on Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia, this could be in an encyclopedia. That's possible. An advertisement. So do you think that they're advertising the Arctic Ocean? Probably not. Now, a travel guide, it could be part of a travel guide, but usually when we have a travel guide, there's more things centered on what people could do there. So they might say, don't take your boat, take your snowmobile. If it was a travel guide, I think it's probably the best. So I'm going to say probably not the travel guide. I think the encyclopedia is the best answer for that. Remember, with multiple choice, we read all the options before we decide. Now, what is the article mostly about? So, all of these things are in the article. The Arctic Ocean, penguins, the North Pole, and sea ice. But if you're looking at what it's mostly about, you're going to look, everything we talked about was about the Arctic Ocean. So I think the Arctic Ocean is what the article is about. I mean, we do talk about that it could be a penguin habitat. We do talk about the North Pole, and we do talk about sea ice. But all of those we talk about because we're talking about the Arctic Ocean. All right. Number 3, which of these headings might be the title of the next section in the article? So think about it. Which of these makes sense? All we've learned about the Arctic Ocean, we know it's up by the North Pole, right? We know that not a lot of plants and animals live there. We know that it's probably a place that was really hard to get to. So let's read and see if we can figure out the best answer for this one. So which of these headings might be the title? So they're talking about this. So this is the first heading, the second heading, and now we're going to go down to the third heading. So which of these headings might be the title of the next section in the article? So we have early Arctic explorers. Oh, that might be. You could talk about that. The South Pole. Now, we have talked about how it's in the North Pole. So I don't think the South Pole's really an option, right? Tropical plants. Okay. We did know that few plants and animals live there. So tropical plants would be plants that might live in the hot part around the equator. I know Ms. LeBay's talked to you guys about maps, but around the equator, that's where the tropics are. So I don't think we'd be talking about tropical plants because we're up at Earth's hat, right? The Arctic Ocean's like a cap on the Earth, and the equator is more like the belt around its belly. So we're talking up here at the North Pole. So I don't think it would be the South Pole. I don't think it would be tropical plants. Ice skating, well, I don't know about you, but if you're gonna go skating on sea ice, that might not be your best call. So I'm assuming if this was in an encyclopedia, like we think, it would probably be early Arctic explorers. Because think about it, it's like a history book. If you were looking it up on Wikipedia, maybe it would say some facts about it. I think early Arctic explorers is your best bet for this question. Okay, which continent does the Arctic Ocean not reach? So we have the information for this, guys. We know that it reaches, let's go back up here and we'll check, Asia, Europe, and North America. Those are the 3 it reaches, right? So let's go down here and we'll check off the ones we know. We know North America, Europe, and Asia. But when we look up here, did they mention Africa? No, and we're looking at not reach. So which continent does the Arctic Ocean not reach? Africa. All right. Thank you for doing your comprehension with me today. I will be back tomorrow with another video explaining Tuesday's comprehension. I hope you have a great day. Check in with me on Dojo. Tell me how you like this. Maybe you could tell me if you could go on a trip to the Arctic Ocean, what would you be interested to see? Send me a message and let me know. Have a great day.